Welcome, everybody. It's Tuesday, which means we got another episode of Game Time with John Eads. Thanks a lot for tuning in today. If you've missed any prior episodes, you can find them on WAFB.com/GameTime. Also on YouTube, just look up WAFB. We've got a whole playlist on there with not only our podcast, but something we do here is we cut up the individual segments from our shows. They're about 4 or 5 minutes long, and you can find those on the YouTube page as well. So if you're just interested in one particular topic, you can watch that particular topic, and it's all right there for you. While you're on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. We'd appreciate it if you do that. And check out our 6 p.m. shows every Tuesday and Thursday if you don't already, because we'll cut a snippet from our shows here today, and we'll put them on those 6 o'clock newscasts. So we'd appreciate it if you guys tune into that as well. And just stay up to date with anything, revolving around LSU, Saints, Southern. I occasionally will tweet things. You can find me on the X app at John Eads WAFB. I'm on Facebook as well, and Instagram. Instagram handle is John Eads TV. College football is coming back this Saturday. I know it's crazy to even utter that phrase. Notre Dame and Navy playing in Dublin. That's a game I'm really excited about. LSU is back in 2 weeks on Labor Day weekend, so it's time. It may not feel like it outside here in Baton Rouge. It's triple-digit weather every single day, but college football is back. So NFL will be back pretty soon, too. I know people got fantasy drafts coming up and things of that nature. So exciting times. End of August here and beginning of September. And on that note, let's get into our discussion of LSU football. Here we go. All right, so LSU season about 2 weeks away, and I want to look ahead to a segment of time in the season for LSU that will be critical. I'm calling it the defining stretch of games for LSU's season. It's 4 games, bam, 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 that LSU will need to win if it wants to win a national championship. If they don't do that, I imagine they'll falter and eventually crumble like a chocolate chip cookie. So this was interesting because there's some big games towards the end of LSU's schedule kind of just sprinkled in there. At Bama, home against Texas A&M. Those aren't stretches, though. Those are individual games. This series of 4 games right here, I wanted to make it 5, but we'll just go with 4. You will know how good or bad, how special or not this LSU football team will be this season. So here we go. It kicks off in late September, the first game, home game against Arkansas, a team that played LSU very tough last year. 13-10, the final score out in Arkansas. Not a fun game to watch. A lot of sacks, not a lot of offense, obviously not a lot of points. Some interesting things about this game. The home team has lost 3 straight. LSU's at home this year, so going based on history, they're supposed to lose this game. On top of that, the last 3 games have all been really close. They've all been decided by 3 points or less. So coming out of the non-conference slate, where LSU will play Florida State and then just some other teams that they should beat, this is going to be a really difficult test to get into SEC play. A team in Arkansas that fought you tooth and nail last year. It's going to be a tough game. One where LSU's offense really struggled last year. Just 8 of 15 passing for 86 yards, and they allowed 7 sacks in the win. Not going to have the ability to put up those numbers this year and win this game because Arkansas is dynamic. They got KJ Jefferson back at quarterback, Raheem Rocket Sanders, one of the best running backs in the SEC, back in the backfield alongside Jefferson. Defensively, they got very good linebackers and a stacked DB room. So that's going to be a very tough game to get into SEC play. Moving on, the next game after that, 1 week later, is a road game at Ole Miss. Some interesting tidbits about this series. The away team, in the last 10 games, just 2-8. 1-9 against the spread. So the team that's having to travel for this game has not played well, obviously, in the recent past, and that is LSU this year. Now, the Tigers, this may have been one of their best games of the year last year. They upset Ole Miss, a top 10 team at the time, right here in Death Valley. The offense was unreal. 252 rushing, 248 passing. That's the balance you want from this LSU offense. And they parlayed that, carried that momentum into an upset victory against Alabama 1 week later. So this is what I'm saying. This stretch of 4 games is where you get Uncle Mo on your side, Mr. Momentum there. And you need to carry him into these big games. So this stretch of games, Arkansas, Ole Miss, you pick up wins in those 2, you're rolling into these final 2. And those final 2 are this. Back on the road again the next week, October 7th now. We're into October. On the road at Missouri. a place where LSU lost in the COVID season in 2020. So they haven't had success there necessarily before. And this Missouri team is really solid. And they've been solid at home for the past couple of years. 8-4 against SEC West teams at home. LSU fits that description as an SEC West team. This year, I'm really high on the Tigers. The other Tigers. A lot of people aren't. But I think Missouri's going to pull an upset. Maybe it's this game. Obviously, we hope not. But they're so good on both sides of the ball. I mean, really solid. 29 points per game on offense they're supposed to average this year. That's per Phil Steele, and he's usually really accurate with these projections. 25 points per game allowed on defense. So, on both sides of the ball, there just aren't that many weaknesses. They're top 40 in all defensive position groups, according to Phil Steele. And they've got a lot of returning production on offense. At least 8 starters. Brady Cook's back at quarterback. They have a 5-star receiver they're trying to work into the mix a little bit more. They've got talent. So, that's a tough game. Arkansas, Ole Miss, Missouri, back-to-back road games there. And then you come back home to play Auburn, another Tigers team. This Tigers team coming off a bye on October 14th. This series, the away team, has won 3 of the last 5. LSU won there last year, and that wasn't a very pretty game. The Tigers were down 17-0 at one point. Scored 21 unanswered points, shut out Auburn in the second half to win. But that was an Auburn team that was led by Brian Harsin, the head coach who's not there anymore. Now it's Hugh Freeze, and I think this team is primed to pull an upset this year. Freeze was at Liberty, previously coached at Ole Miss as well. He turned around that Flames program, and I think he's going to come into Auburn and quickly change the narrative of what that program does. His offense, his scheme, tough to stop. And he's got some good players on both sides of the ball to implement that scheme. Defensively, I don't have many questions on the offensive side because Freeze is the offensive guy. They've got Peyton Thorne at quarterback, Michigan State transfer, a lot of playmakers as well. The big problem, I think, was defense last year, and they've got defensive talent. They really gave LSU some problems in this game. One-on-one coverage, stacking the box, getting pressure on Jaden Daniels. They got a top 10 secondary this year, top 50 defensive line and linebacker units, and that defense is just stingy. But it's back at home for LSU. So let's wrap this all up. The 4-game stretch that will give you an early indication in late September, early October at just how good and how high this LSU team could fly and how high they could climb this year. It's home against Arkansas, September 23rd, at Ole Miss, at Missouri, home against Auburn. You go 4-0 in that stretch, we might be talking about a special team. You falter in there early in the season, not so sure. Last year, we'll finish with this, LSU was 5-2 through 7 games, 2 losses. You got to hold on to that second loss as long as you can in this college football playoff era. So I want to see where LSU is at through 7 games this year. They win that opener against Florida State in the non-conference? Good. That's a game you could lose. That's a toss-up right now. And then roll. Go into this stretch, win all 4, set the definition for what you're going to achieve this year if you're LSU. Let's see how good the Tigers are through 7 games, and then we'll talk about what else they could accomplish in the Final 5 and then the postseason. One thing that LSU will certainly need is an X factor. And here's LSU's X factor this season. It's the offensive line. I think at times last year, especially in those first 7 games, the fluctuation of the offensive line really hindered LSU's ability. Then they made some changes. Guys got healthy, and they turned it up. They beat Ole Miss. They upset them at home. Then they beat Alabama at home as well. Finished the season well, 10-4 season. But here's the thing. If LSU wants to win the SEC wholesale, maybe even the SEC West again, and accomplish more than that, the offensive line simply needs to be better. Last year, the O-line allowed its most sacks at LSU since at least 1997. We don't even have a firm date on how far back that goes. And that's not good. Okay, they allowed 45 sacks, easily the most in a long time, easily the most in the last 7 seasons. In 2021, they allowed 38 sacks. So I'm not sure if it was a personnel thing, because obviously Coach O was here in 2021 and Brian Kelly was here last year. But a lot of the same guys were on that 2021 team and last year's team. There are some exceptions, we'll get into that. Real quickly, in that 2021 season, LSU allowed 38 sacks, and they only ran the ball at a 3.3 per carry clip. Not good. Why did they struggle last year? Fluctuation. LSU used 5 different offensive line combinations in the first 6 games, whether it be because they didn't have solidified starters or they had guys getting injured, bumped up. They wanted to move guys around from guard to tackle to center, all that stuff. But in the second half of the season, they found the guys that will work. Guys got healthy, and they finished the season really well. But last year, LSU did struggle in the games where the offensive line did not play well. Here's this. LSU last year, 4-3 in games where they allowed 4 or more sacks. Do the math. That means they were 6-1 in games where they allowed 3 or less sacks. So we got a property here. I forget what the property's called in math where this means that. But this is what it is. When LSU struggles to pass protect, to run block, they don't win games. That was evidenced last year. But when they were good, LSU had success, and they won games. So for me, everything hinges on the offensive line this year. Only had 1 returning starter last season, 10 guys that had started games before, but you got to find the right combination of guys. And as I said, towards the end of the season last year, they did. Anthony Bradford started in the Tennessee game, a game that LSU just looked awful. I was watching that game yesterday. They lost 40-13, the worst they looked all season. Because Will Campbell wasn't playing. The true freshman last year, the all-SEC offensive lineman this year, he was a godsend at left tackle. Parlay that with Emory Jones on the right side of that line, you've got a really good offensive line. So this year, things are looking really good. You've got basically 5 returning starters this season. Campbell, Jones, Garrett Dellinger, Miles Frazier, Charles Turner at center. They've all started a handful of games. And this offensive line is looking like it's going to have an excellent year. A Joe Moore Award contender potentially given to the nation's best offensive line. What's also huge and will certainly help this year, you've got depth. I talk about Bradford's struggles in that Tennessee game where he was just giving up sacks left and right. It was like a turnstile. No disrespect, but the guy wasn't protecting Jaden Daniels at all. They got depth. Lance Hurd, 5-star true freshman offensive tackle. He's 6'6", 340. This guy's oozing with confidence. And if Campbell or Jones get nicked up, or they just want to slot him in for whatever reason, someone's not performing well at some certain point, he can go in and play. Mason Lunsford, we've talked about him, transferred to no, started 24 games at Maryland, at guard, at center, an interior offensive lineman, a versatile piece. He can slot in too. Marlon Martinez even, he's the backup center. He's got starting experience. So you've got excellent starting 5 out there already, and you've got guys on the second team that could come in and play just as well, or at least at the level you need to win games. So again, last year I think a lot of LSU's downfalls were because of the offensive line fluctuation and overall just not playing at the level you need to. I don't think they're going to have those problems this year, but the X factor for LSU this season is the offensive line. They play well, LSU can accomplish whatever it wants. Sky is the limit for this team. The question is, will they perform at the level needed and adequate to do those things? And I'm excited to find out this season. But let me know if you guys think that LSU's offensive line will have a big year. All right, we'll continue on with LSU and a series that you guys have really enjoyed. And again, be sure to like the videos and subscribe to the channel here at WAFB. Freshman Familiarity. We've previously done Deshaun Womack and Ashton Stamps. A lot of you really liked hearing about Stamps, the 3-star corner from Archbishop Rummel, a local product who could see a lot of playing time this year for the Tigers. But today we're giving you a 2-for-1 because I'm going to be honest with you, I could not decide who to pick. And they're 2 guys that play the same position, tight end. Now, why did I pick tight end, and why is tight end important, and why are freshmen in a position to play this early? Well, here's this. LSU apparently wants to run more 2 tight end sets this year. And you can't run 2 tight end sets unless you got 2 guys out there you could trust. So Mason Taylor's your one, of course, the All-American tight end who had a huge freshman season as a receiver and a blocker. You need to find a second option, though. I think they have those options. We'll get to that in just a second. On top of that, we've spoken about this a little bit. I think LSU's got a lack of potent receiving options right now. They got Malik Neighbors, but Brian Thomas, Kyron Lacey, Aaron Anderson, etc. I'm just not too sure who that second option is. So why not find it a tight end if you can? And you've got to improve in the red zone too. And tight ends are really crucial for the red zone because obviously the field shrinks when you get inside the 20, and it's harder for receivers unless they're running in-cutting routes. Or they got one-on-one matchups on the outside to find ways to catch the football and score touchdowns. But tight ends, they could be run blocking. They could fake the run block and run a route. They could just straight up run a route and split out and catch a pass. Tight ends are so important in the red zone. They're security blankets for the quarterback. And last year, LSU was 49th in the FBS. That's out of 130 teams or so. In red zone scoring percentage, 86%. That's not very high. This is what matters to me. 65 trips to the red zone, only 11 passing touchdowns versus 36 rushing. Now, I get that because Jaden Daniels is a dual threat quarterback, and LSU had a good stable of backs last year. But I want to see if they can convert some of these missed opportunities, because they had a lot of missed opportunities in the red zone. Fourth down stops, turnovers, settling for field goals even. They had 9 field goals in the red zone last year. Can they convert those into passing touchdowns? That's the biggest question for me. Last year, it didn't seem like they had the guys to do that. I think they might have them this year, and they just so happen to be freshmen. So here we go. 2 guys. Start with this one. Mac Markway. How about that as a name? 4-star from St. Louis, top 250 recruit per 24/7 Sports. Former Florida commit as well. He's 6'4", 250, and as a high school sophomore was projected as a 2nd or 3rd round pick compared to Foster Moreau, who of course played here at LSU and is now in the NFL and has had some health concerns recently, but it seems like he's doing okay, so good for Foster there. Now, Markway is someone that is described as being a high-floor tight end and a two-way guy. So he can block and he can go out and run routes well, and that's important as a tight end because if you're just a receiver, which our next freshman is, and we'll get to that at this point at least, you know, people are going to be able to know what you're doing. So if you see that tight end of the game, you're like, all right, they're passing because he's not much of a run blocker. But Markway has been the most consistent of the newcomers, according to 24/7 Sports, and can play that two-dimensional game, which is good because we talk about balanced offense. You need a tight end that can be balanced as well. One play, he's putting a guy in the dirt, pancaking him. On the next one, he's running a 20-yard route, catching it for a touchdown in the red zone. That's what you want from a tight end. Markway is interesting, too, because he's got good genetics. His dad played tight end at Iowa, which is, some would say, tight end U. His uncle Steve played tight end at Ohio State. And his cousin Kyle played at South Carolina and won Super Bowl 56 with the Rams and had an excellent career as a Gamecock. So it's in his blood. I'm pretty sure he even said himself, I came out of the womb to play tight end. So not a bad guy to have on your team. And again, he's been known to be the most consistent player at fall camp amongst the newcomers for LSU. So you need that second tight end option if you want to run those 2 tight end sets. And I think Markway's a guy that can come in and do that well. He's got a high floor, doesn't necessarily have a high ceiling, people are saying. I mean, it's just all talk. He can go and prove everybody wrong if he wants to, but he's a guy to know. I think he could play a lot early in the season, and he's going to get a lot of reps throughout the season as well. All right, another tight end, another true freshman, Kamorian Pimpton. Love that name. 4-star from Fort Worth, Texas, right where TCU is, so a big recruiting win there for LSU. He was an Army All-American as well. Big recruit just like Markway. They bring in 2 really good tight end prospects as true freshmen. He's 6'6", 242. Big dude. He's already put on weight, too, since he's been at LSU. Former Vanderbilt commit. Would have been a big pickup for them. He flipped on early signing day. So, again, a good recruiting win and a feather in the cap for LSU. I watched his high school film. He split out a lot at wide receiver. Like, it was almost like he was just playing wide receiver, which is interesting because you see Kyle Pitts do that with the Falcons, and he did that at Florida, too. He's not a Kyle Pitts-type athlete, but what that shows me is he knows how to run routes. He knows the route tree, and that's going to be critical for him. He hauled in a lot of catches in fall camp. It's being reported. Many of those in the red zone, which is why I brought up LSU struggles in the red zone last year. This guy could be the answer. They do say, though, that he needs work on his blocking. So we talk about being a two-way tight end, a balanced tight end. Seems like Markway's kind of got the upper hand there. But if you want a guy that can go in and catch a pass and win a matchup one-on-one against a linebacker or a nickelback, Pimpton is your guy. He has flashed just some amazing catches in fall camp, apparently. Like, his athleticism allows him to do some insane things. Like, he has a basketball background, so he can go up, catch jump balls. He's got a great catch radius. Mason Taylor says he's definitely going to be someone that helps his team out this year. His arms apparently go all the way down to his knees. Like, mine don't. Mine go halfway down my legs here. So he's got long arms, and you throw him up a jump ball, more often than not, it seems like he's going to come down with it. So, look, I think another thing that LSU needs to improve on this year, as I said, is that red zone offense. The difference between 3 and 7 points is huge, especially in those big games, like those defining games that we talked about earlier in the show. And Markway and Pimpton, if not this year, at some point in their LSU careers, could be guys that help out with those problems and turn those weaknesses, semi-weaknesses, into strengths. So, Mac Markway, Kamorian Pimpton, 2 more names to know in terms of LSU's freshman class this year. All right, let's end it out with some Saints and something that's a little embarrassing for me. Last episode, we talked about linebacker 3 for New Orleans. Who's it going to be? Is it Zach Bond? Is it Anferni Orji? I didn't even mention Jaylon Smith, which is terrible. The guy's a former Pro Bowler with Dallas. And the Saints signed him earlier in August, on August the 11th. He's entering his 7th NFL season. This was a big pickup. Like, I'm watching that game against the Chargers on Sunday, and I'm like, who is that? Who's this guy I'm not talking about? Oh, it's Jaylon Smith, dummy. This guy was making plays, man. He's covering dudes one-on-one. He's swatting passes. He's hit-sticking dudes. Like, this is a player that will make you turn your head. And it's a player that should show out against what was mostly backup players playing for Los Angeles. When you're a Pro Bowler, a former All-American in college at Notre Dame, you should stand out against the pack, and he did that. So Jaylon Smith is your certified linebacker 3. He got my stamp of approval. I've seen enough from this guy. He's put up massive stats before. Had 120-plus tackles between his 2nd and 4th seasons in Dallas. That's 3 different seasons of really high-end production. But then in 2021, he didn't play as much, only had 18 tackles, and then he moved around from Dallas to Green Bay to New York. And he played well in New York last year. Had 46 tackles in a sack as well, and 11 starts with the Giants. So he really proved that his better days are not behind him. In fact, he might still be in them. Only entering his 7th season, and at linebacker, there's a lot of wear and tear on your body, but he was a high-level athlete. And what the Saints need is someone that can just fill in and rotate, I think, at that linebacker 3 spot. And if Pete Werner or Demario Davis go down, someone that can go in and play a bigger role too when called upon. And I think Jaylon Smith can definitely do that. He can hit, he can run support, and he can cover one-on-one. High-level athlete. Showed it at Notre Dame, showed it at Dallas, he's shown it now in New Orleans. And you need someone that you know can get the job done. Zach Bond is a wild card. And Fernie Orji, the rookie, wild card. You don't know what you're going to get. Yeah, you might make plays in practice. You might make plays in a preseason game. But when the bright lights are on, the pressure is on, you're playing for your job. You're playing for wins that ultimately you hope lead to playoff appearances and Super Bowl championships. You need to know that the guys in the field, all 11 of them, are capable of doing the job that needs to be done to be successful. And Jaylon Smith fits that description. The other guys that were battling for the job before, I don't think they fit that description. So Bond and Orji might be guys now playing for a spot on the team because this front office and this staff in New Orleans took initiative, went out and found someone that can play ball. And Smith was a great find. Someone who people think probably just popped off in his first couple of seasons in the league and is starting to fall off. But he's trying to prove that he can still play ball. And he wants to play for years to come. So he needs to have a big year this season to prove to New Orleans and maybe some other teams, if they're interested, that he deserves another contract and another 3-4 years in the NFL. So he's motivated. He's got the pedigree. He's got the production to match that as well. And Jaylon Smith is a huge add for the Saints. I think he's going to have a big season for New Orleans, especially if he's called upon due to injury or even just in a rotational role to go in and cover somebody, to go in and get a tackle, go in and get a sack. He can do it all. So I'm really excited to see what Smith can do for the Saints this year. And my question's answered in terms of who's linebacker 3. So I won't utter the words Zach Bond or Anferni Orji or even linebacker 3 again for a long time after doing it way too much for the past 2 weeks. 2-word answer, John. Jaylon Smith. There you go. Season's coming up soon. All right, that'll do it. What a great episode. A lot of LSU topics. Got some Saints in there, too. The season's coming up so fast. Like, I was just talking to my dad yesterday about how I think the Florida State game's going to go. I have no idea. Like, I sit up here and I act like, well, you know, I do a lot of research, and I try to be as prepared as I can to give people a good answer on how that game's going to go. I got no idea. That game's a toss-up. And we'll be there on Labor Day, and it's going to be a lot of fun to see just how LSU sets the tempo for the season. It's going to be a good tempo setter just for the college football season in general. Hey, come back on Thursday because college football, as I said, starts on Saturday, which means we got to get predictions in. And I got all my predictions right here. And we're going to give them to you guys on Thursday on the show. So you're going to want to come back and get those. Thanks a lot for watching, though. Follow me on Twitter, at John Eads WAFB, Instagram, at John Eads TV. Watch the 6 o'clock show tonight, WAFB, and WAFB.com/gametime if you missed any episodes. WAFB on YouTube, all the episodes there. We'll see you guys on Thursday. It's going to be a big day. So check back in. Thanks again for watching.